Hi, welcome to my channel, GDG's Altered Objects. Today I'm going to do a tutorial on how to create an interactive mini album. Those are my favorite projects. And I'm going to use this charming paper by Graphic 45. It's the Kaleidoscope collection. So we'll be using the 12 by 12 of the Kaleidoscope. Also the 12 by 12 of the patterns and solids. I'm also going to be using the 8 by 8 of the Kaleidoscope and some 8 by 8 of the metallic jewels by Tim Holtz. And we'll also be using the stickers from the collection that come with the Kaleidoscope collection, as well as the envelopes and tags and the tag board punch outs. All right, so I'm going to set this aside, and I was asked to do step-by-steps along with you, so that's what I'm going to try to do. There are several ways to begin your book binding. Most of the ones that I've seen call for you to use the wonderful envelopes, and I used to do that, but now I can get rid of one step because duct tape comes in so many colors. So I'm going to begin. This is black chipboard. You can pick it up at most craft stores. Each side panel is 7.5 by 7.5, and the middle is 7.5 by 3. This is where the spines will be. So we're going to bind these together. Now, when you're deciding how large you want your project, my rule of thumb is I try to go 1 inch to 1.5 inches over what the pages are going to be. I want to do the colored portion of my pages in 6 by 6 so that I can utilize the most out of my paper collection, which means that my black papers for what I call the bones will be 6.5 by 6.5, because I like to leave a little black trim around the outside of the black papers. I like the way that looks. All right, so here all I've done is I have a 7.5 piece of chipboard with the 3.5 inch piece of chipboard and the 7.5 by 7.5 inch. We're going to tape these together. Since they're black, I'm going to be using black duct tape. I keep an extra pair of scissors just for sticky projects like this. I don't want to use my good fussy cutting scissors on sticky things like duct tape. So you're going to leave just about that 1/4 inch. Lie your duct tape down. And here I like to take my bone folder. I'll do it after I do the other side. Folding this down. And perhaps for the tutorial, I shouldn't have done black on black. Sorry about that. I'm going to smooth out. All of this will be covered in the end. I'm going to do the outside binding, and that will be one of the last steps with cloth, and then put some fussy cutting and embellishments on it. All right, we're going to do the same thing to this side. Leave that 1/4 inch. You want it to be able to close. So leave that 1/4 inch. And this duct tape is pretty indestructible. I've even used this on books that I've done for smaller children that are actually going to handle the books, 8-year-olds, and it's proven wonderful. Okay, again, smooth that down. This is why I use a separate pair of scissors for duct tape. And then take my bone folder and make sure we have no bubbles. All right, so that is the very first part of our bones of our book. One little thing, if I wasn't going to cover the outside in cloth, when I cover it in cloth, it folds over a little, so the edges are covered. If I was going to do it with paper and it wouldn't be folded over, then whatever color theme I was doing, I would line the edges also with duct tape to give it a nice finished look. But I'm not going to need to do that today because it's going to be bound with paper. With material. All right, now the next step is to create the spines that the pages are going to go on. Again, my black pages are going to be 6.5 by 6.5. So the spines that they're going on need to be a little smaller. So I cut 5 pieces of paper, and these pieces are 6 inches by 3 inches. So it's smaller than the black paper. Then you're going to use your scoring pad to score them at 1/2 inch, 1.5 inch, and 2.5 inches. Then you're going to fold it at the 1.5, smooth it out with your bone folder, and then come back with the 2.5 and the 1/2. Easy peasy, right? I'll do it one more time. But in the meantime, let's put a little glue on this. When I'm doing anything that has to do with the binding, often I will use 2 glues. I will use tape so that the double-sided tape, binding tape, so that it adheres immediately, along with some liquid glue to be sure it's permanent. And because this is part of the binding, I want it to be very strong, so I'm going to use some E6000, and I'm going to put a little bit of this Collall tacky glue because it dries super quick. So I want something that goes quick, but also something that's going to be very durable. All right. And then I'll put a couple clips on this to let that dry. And we'll do that one more time, okay? All right, so we have our piece of paper that is cut in 3.5 inches by 6 inches because it has to be a little smaller than the pages that are going to fit on top of them. And then take your score pad, score it at 1/2 inch, 1.5 inches, and 2.5 inches. Using your bone folder, I start with the middle fold. That's the 1.5. And then each of the sides I fold down. So you're folding it in half, and then you're coming back with it and going down. And this other side is going to be folded down. So you're left with this. Then we're going to put our glues on the inside and pin it shut. I just do that to help it dry perfectly. All right, so you're going to need 5 of those all together. Okay, so you're going to end up with 5 of these spines. And this is what we're going to attach our pages to. Okay, so this is where I do use my tape as well as my E6000, because I want it to stick right away, and then I need it to adhere permanently. So I'll begin with a piece of the binding tape, which is double-sided scoring tape. Put a piece on each side. I put it on the end so there's room for my glue on the inside. I find that it's easier to peel off if I run my bone folder over the top of it like this. So that one is the one we did together. We're going to let it finish drying. So these I've already done. So the next thing we're going to do is peel off the cover piece, tape, and then we're going to add E6000, and I purposefully do this right in the middle to make sure that it's just extra strong. So I'm going to put my dots of E6000. Then if you hold your book up like this so that you don't accidentally go too far, and you're going to want to place it in the middle. Remember, it's going to be smaller so that your pages can fit on it. Now that tape is helping to adhere that down while the E6000 dries. We're just going to continue the other ones the same way. Peeling off the back of the tape. E6000. You don't want to get too much, you don't want it globbing all over. And once that first one's down, you have a good idea of how to continue. The space is being left in between here because each page, each skeleton page, is going to wind up to be 4, maybe 5 pages. So you want plenty of room. I just heard something crash in my kitchen, and I don't have any idea what my parrot's doing. But he didn't squawk, so hopefully he's just fine, and I can check on him in a second. Theodore! There we go. And of course, you can make yours as large or as small as you want. Crafting, I seem to do gardening and crafting in odd numbers. So I chose 5. If you don't want to make them as thick, you don't have to do it at 1/2 inch intervals. You could do it at 1/4 inch intervals. But that's part of the fun to me, is having all the little nicks and crannies and secret places for journaling and photos. And just discovering, oh look, here's a piece here I didn't know that was here, when you give it to someone. Okay, last one, and then I'll show you how to build the pages. One little thing that you could have done before, you could have rounded the edges or nicked them off. It really isn't that hard to do once it's on here. So in order to slide the pages down a little easier, we're going to make little triangular cuts on the edges. So we'll cut here, here on each of them. This part is forgiving. It does not need to be exact. You're just making it easier to slide your There he goes again, so he must be fine. What was that? That was plastic. He's knocking something in the sink. Okay. And we'll do the same thing here. The cardstock that I use for the pages is a little more heavy duty than the hinges. The hinges need to be a little more flexible. I want the pages to be quite sturdy to stand up to everything we're going to do to them later. So I don't have the packaging on this cardstock, but it is thicker than 80 pounds. So it's a little heavier than that. So each page is 6 by 6. That's also helpful. Actually, they're 6.5 by 6.5, I'm sorry, because you don't have to remember whether they go vertically or horizontally. They're all the same size. You're only going to glue 2 of the sides down. Again, I'm going to use E6000 because this is part of the binding, and this is where I wish I had the tiny tubes, because I don't want to take up all of the room. This is going to wind up not only to be a page, but it's also going to be a pocket for the pull-out. And we'll talk about that more later. All right, so we're gluing tops and bottoms, and we're leaving the sides open. I like to keep baby wipes around just in case I get too heavy-handed with the glue. Okay, now the way this is going to work, one more time, let's glue this one so it can work on drying as well. So, little E6000 just along the top and along the bottom. You're leaving the sides open. It's going to be for binding and a pull-out pocket. Great place for extra photographs or memorabilia. All right, we're going to place this one right on top. And I'll put a couple clips on these to make sure. A little wipe. They dry nice and tight together. All right, so I'm setting these two we did aside with the clips on them, and I'm going to show you how these fit on the spines. Right, here are some that I have done, and I'm going to give it a trial run. Probably should have done this before I was on the camera, but hey, I know my nails are hideous, but I really wanted to get this project done. I haven't had time to go. Very good. You see how that just fits right over the top of our little spine. So again, what I'm going to do, but this time I'm going to put it on the actual spine itself, is we're going to use both tape and E6000. It is snug, but you really want it to be snug. That's the support. And then I also do a little check to make sure that I didn't miscalculate and my pages don't hang over the edge of the book. It has happened before. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to put tape on each side, and I'm going to put it in the middle because I want a little of my E6000 to be on the top. and bottom of this spine. I want to make sure that it's quite secure. Okay, so we're going to do that to each spine on both sides. It's going to get tape, and then right before you put the actual page on, you're going to put the E6000 for that good stick durability that we get with that. I got my finger on that one, I don't want to use it. The funniest things happen when I'm on camera, things that never happen any other time. Maybe it's because I'm kind of working upside down. And then remember to take your bone folder and run it over where your tape is. It helps to get the top piece off if it's really good and secure. Tricks I've learned from other wonderful crafters. And most of my techniques I've learned from Anne of Anne's Paper Crafting. She used to be a brand ambassador for Graphic 45, and I really love everything she does. I'm sure this whole binding technique, a lot of times I take something from the best of everything, but I do find that a lot of the things I include in my books, except for my own signature things, were inspired by the first couple of books I made watching her. All right, so we have smoothed that down with our bone folder, and now we'll pull the tops off. And this part is not always covered, so you don't want to go too far with your E6000. You can make a mess that, oh, you can always do something like put extra paper there, some lace, but just be aware that it's best to try not to get the glue down in between. All right, and then we're going to open up our 2 pages that we've glued together. So I say. And we're going to fit it right down there. Make sure it goes all the way to the bottom. And then, oh, that looks a little crooked. Quite go down far enough. There we go. All right, one more. Take the tape off. And the tricks were that this has to be smaller than your skeleton pages. Otherwise, obviously, it won't fit over. I like to put E6000 on the top and bottom of the paper, over and under the tape. I want to make sure it has a good, secure fit, because this has to handle the weight of whatever else we add to it. And I love metal embellishments and brads and even polymer clay sometimes, heavy objects. So we definitely want to make sure that we are giving it a good foundation.